All right, this is the third and final piece of 1.1.1, and this is actually sort of just a review of things that you've seen in previous classes and previous years. We're going to shift gears a little bit, get away from graphs. We're going to talk about fractions, decimals, and percentages, which are all just different ways of representing values. Okay, percentages, you hear about things like, if you're a baseball fan, you hear about batting percentage or on-base percentage. But remember that those numbers, if you're a baseball fan, so your batting average is actually represented as a decimal, right? We say 375 for a batting average, which is a really good batting average. 375 for a batting average is actually 0.375. Okay? And it actually means that you get on base from a hit 37.5% of the time. Or out of 1,000 times at bat, you make it on 375 out of 1,000. Okay, so fractions, decimals, percentages are actually things that we see all over the place, and there are very specific ways that we can get from one to the other. And I'm going to review that for you very quickly right here. All right, to go from a fraction to a decimal, it's a kind of a straightforward process. You can do it two ways. You can do long division, or you can use a calculator, right? Do the top divided by the bottom. Okay. To get from a decimal to a percentage, this is actually the easiest one of the entire thing. All you need to do is multiply by 100. And then if multiplying by 100 goes this direction, then to go from a percentage to a decimal is actually just divide by 100. Okay. Now, a percentage to a fraction is actually the hardest one to do. What you need to do is you need to take that percentage, put it over 100, and then simplify. Okay, always reduce that fraction, right? 25 over 100 is not the simplest version. You want to reduce that to 1 over 4. Okay, so I'm going to give you real quick examples of how to use all of these and on the next page. So here we go. So for example, if I wanted to go from a decimal to a percentage, okay, I know that that means to just multiply by 100. So if I had 0.35 and I wanted to switch it from a decimal to a percentage, all I need to do is take that 0.35, multiply it by 100, which maybe you remember is just moving the decimal place over 2 to the right. So we multiply this by 100, we bump this thing 1, 2 to the right, and we find that 0.35 is actually 35%. Yep. Pretty easy. If you wanted to go back the other way, if I wanted to go from the percentage to the decimal, all I have to do is divide by 100, which just means moving the decimal the other direction. Instead of going to the right to multiply to make it bigger, I'm going to go left from here, 1, 2, and then there we go. 35% switches into 0.35. Piece of cake. Okay, so that's the easy one, right? I just wanted to kind of get that guy out of the way. Now, going from a percentage, like let's say 12% into a fraction, okay, that involves, like I said, taking the percentage, putting it over 100, and then reduce. Always reduce. I'm a big stickler on reducing fractions. Okay, if you don't reduce the fraction, you're probably going to get dinged a little bit on it. Fair warning. Okay, so percentage to a fraction, if I go ahead and take that percentage, 12, and I put it over 100, okay, what I can do is reduce this fraction, and I just got to think of numbers that go into both 12 and 100. I always start with the smallest numbers just to make it easier. I know that 2 goes into both of these, so I'm going to reduce the top and bottom by 2, divide top and bottom, okay, which gives me 6 over 50. But I'm not actually done yet because I noticed that these are still even numbers. So I'm going to divide by 2 again, okay, which will give me 3 over 25. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a good answer. That is 12% changed into a fraction. Okay. Now, the last little one that I want to go through is how to get from a fraction, like let's say 3 over 7, into a decimal.